meeting notes, so you can all put your names in there. If you don't have edit rights, just make a suggestion and then we'll accept it. I mean, now we can see how much of consensus calls and everything we can do here. I think we concluded last time with screenshots in Alert Manager just continue, but now Josh isn't here, so I'm not sure if it makes sense to continue there. I mean, Simon, you're probably the Alert Manager expert in the room.
Yeah, I guess that if Josh is not there, that's going to be a bit hard. We discussed that in the past. From my point of view, like anything in that space is probably okay, but I don't have probably suggestions to make more than that.
Okay, I made another. Let's first start with this one then. It's kind of a point of order thing. We need a volunteer for the release shepherd. And Brian asked for that, and I think nobody volunteered so far. But let me double check. No. Okay, Brian himself can't make it. Maybe in 1 hour. Okay. So on the internal Grafana channel, there are lots of people who said they can't make it. Kayo, I think you can just speak up.
Yeah, so I did suggest last time that I would volunteer for being the next shepherd, but then I couldn't really shadow Brian because of other things. So if it works from the release MD, then I can take a work at it. When is it exactly, the next one?
It's I mean, we have been a bit late for the recent ones because they were too delayed and it wouldn't make sense. So it's not like super precise clockwork, but having said that, it's 15th of April is the kind of target release date.
I'm at an offsite that week.
Yeah, I mean, we could just do it a week later if that's the reason. That shouldn't keep us. Let me quickly check who was the shepherd.
If we have a target date for mid-April, does it mean that we need to release candidates before that?
I think that the target date is for the release candidate.
Okay.
I mean, this is essentially date of first pre-release. That's what we call it. But like this is not rocket science, right? So it's the idea. I mean, we were really super nicely timed with every 6 weeks, which is it's a pretty harsh cadence in a way for a big open source project. But this was all that came from the experience that when we didn't have that, we would just never release. And when we finally thought, okay, we should release again, it was like a gigantic release with a mile-long changelog, and that's why we just said we just do every 6 weeks. But if it's 7 or 8 weeks, that doesn't matter, right? It shouldn't be 3 months. So that means we could just do it a week later, and then it wouldn't collide with Kayo's offsite. We could also, Arthur, like you never did that, right? You could also inaugural release shepherd. How is that?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I'm not confident at all doing it, but I can learn. If nobody volunteers, I can try.
I mean, we are all there, right? It's not that you're on an empty space doing it. Like it's just like somebody has to look at stuff and see, okay, now's the time. let's cut this, but then you can all the time just catch any of the more experienced maintainers. Since like Arthur is now even higher up the ranks than Cryo, right? Because you're now officially welcome a team member. How about Arthur just the 52 and then Cryo just the 53? And you can already kind of help each other. So kind of.
Sounds good to me. If that's okay with Cryo.
Okay, and then we'll prepare a PR for that. So where are the meeting notes? Okay, let's write it down. What happened now?
So 6 weeks after the 15th, that's
like end of May something.
end of May. I'm going on holiday. Crap.
I mean, let's tweak it a bit. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I'm on holiday then. Yeah, it's not meant to be.
When are you like starting end of May and then you're gone for 2 weeks, or?
Exactly. From 19th to the 2nd of June, I'm gone.
From 19th May, right?
Yeah.
So if we do like, let's target, if we do this a week later, so that, let's say 22nd, because like there might be a bunch of Prometheus people also at that Grafana offsite, and then they are not available to help out. So maybe we should, even with Arthur at the helm, we should delay for a week. And then the next thing would be, let's just see if this works. Okay, if I, okay, it doesn't, I probably have to, yeah, I cannot find you. I'll just write Kayo. So when are you back from your holidays?
2nd or 3rd of June.
I mean, that's
Monday.
That's pretty good then, right? Then we can, if we do 22nd of April as the target date, that's Monday, right? So then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3rd of June would be the next target date. And that's, again, that's just like rule of thumb. Would that fit?
Yeah.
And then really, this is the beginning of the process, right? This is not when the release has to be done. Then this is when you make sure dependencies are up to date and chase people up. And if it takes a few more days, it's also not a problem.
Let's all agree, no bugs in the next release. Appreciate.
Sorry, what was that?
No bugs on the next release then.
Yeah, sure.
Just
Okay. So I'll create a PR because I volunteered you into this. Okay, cool. That was just important. Let's write this down, postponed. I mean, maybe Josh turns up, but then we can still pull this up again. Okay, and now I guess we have to go for votes. I mean, we're actually pretty good with the backlog. Okay, the highest voted thing is actually query screenshots, so we can't do that one. Then we have a 3-vote thing, remove Kubernetes v1 beta API. Okay, so Brian submitted that, but I think that was part of the box scrub. Do we have, like, Frederick would be the perfect person. Okay, but Simon looked into this as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
I came across that issue. Not sure why, when, or why. But I think in the discussion, it was like maybe Prometheus V3 would be the right time to do it. Just because now we could just say that we won't support like Kubernetes older than, we don't need to support Kubernetes older than 125.
yeah.
Do I understand correctly that deprecating those APIs will not reduce the binary? It's just like reducing code. Like we are able to delete code. Is that it?
Yes. I don't, someone would need to try, but I don't expect that it will change the size of the binary a lot. Yeah.
I mean, this is still the same Kubernetes client code linked in, right? Which is
Yes.
half of the universe.
Yeah, I think Julia said, like the first comment is that's no cost to keep them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong opinion about this. This should be done by people who are actually in touch with that every day. I mean, it sounds good to just drop it in 3.0, but
I guess if anybody has an argument that it should happen before, then why not? But at the very least, probably my feeling would be that in Prometheus V3, we can just say that's part of the breaking changes in a way. Breaking, but we are going to drop those deprecated APIs.
okay. I mean, we can just update the issue with like that a not very well attended dev summit thought that we should drop it with 3.0 and that people should I don't know, if people have any issues with that, they should follow up to the issue. Is that, I mean, probably it doesn't even make sense to have like formal consensus agreement, everything with a few people.
Yeah.
So I'll just write this down and then you can still protest. Let's update the issue with intent to try in 3. Which should I mean, opportunities are, we never, I mean, how many people are watching this? But maybe like a representative subset of people. Okay, I mean, let's do this. And then Brian brought this up, so he might okay, I'll just write it down into the issue right now. At day there and attendees. So okay, I'll update the issue. And maybe we can leave it with that, and we'll see what happens. At least we gave them an opportunity, even if it was like somewhere hidden in the bathroom or somewhere. Okay. So then we have a lot of vote. Now we have a few vote too. So going through the old ones, maybe first, deprecation policy in the alert manager. I think we had this for a long time on the agenda. That's again a Josh topic. Is this something, Simon, you could proxy well enough? This is, I guess, it's about when should we do 1.0? What should we break?
Yes, I guess the idea is, are we ready to declare alert manager the binary v1? And should we do it? Yeah. I don't feel comfortable enough to give like a complete overview of what are the things that we want to deprecate or to drop. Yeah.
I mean, it feels like Josh put it here because he wanted feedback from the wider community. I mean, I would intuitively say, I mean, if somebody asked me, I would say, go to the alert manager developers, they should make the call. But the developer, the maintainer posted this here. So I guess it is more about getting some feedback. And since we are not that many, that be super valuable.
I guess the idea is fishing for advices, like what are the things we need to consider? Are there anything that people would not like to see being broken with the V1?
I mean, I guess it's the situation. It has been zeroed or something for so long, so that people don't really assume breaking changes now, although it was always 0.x. It's a bit similar to our common repository. Cough, cough. Okay, let's do the other one. Correlation between an alert and alert rule. It's another Josh thing. This sounds like we discussed this recently, or we just digressed into it. I still have Julius's voice in my head from last time where he said that this is actually, maybe it was just raising the problem that this issue tries to address. This is all about, I like to propose a generic way to propagate additional metadata about an alert. Like the alert query partially propagated. Okay. As an example, things like the value that triggered the alert. I don't know. Okay, the alert rule that triggered this alert.
I guess that's getting the value, the current value of the expression, which we don't propagate to alert manager, because when an alert is resolved, then you don't have any value. I guess it's more like having some generic context that you could attach to the alert, which would not be labels, not be annotations.
Yeah, I mean, again, this sounds like the alert manager experts wanted to get feedback from the wider community, which we are not very wide at the moment here. I mean, Simon, should we discuss this more, or?
No, I don't think so. Without Josh, I don't have more context.
If it's just asking for feedback, maybe it makes sense to post on the Prometheus dev channel.
Yes, yeah, sure. I mean, this is the Dev Summit is kind of yet another. I mean, it's often used as a way to get direct feedback, and also to have a closed feedback loop where you can just discuss those things back and forth.
Consensus, right?
Which is what?
I guess we use Dev Summit to reach consensus on some stuff.
Yeah, but also to have a more nuanced discussion that would be hard in just an email thread or a chat. Let's. I'll just write this down here. This might be a short dev summit if we postpone all the juicy things. Okay, that was 2 words. And then we have the rank function asked for on Slack to construct a bomb. Okay, that's Brian. Brian might still show up. I actually don't have I mean, I voted for it because it sounded like we should discuss it, but I don't have enough context to explain what that should be. And then we are, I mean, has anyone context about this rank function? Maybe somebody witnessed it on Slack. Okay. Then we have items with 1, like we have Gautam. Are you still with us?
I'm here. Yeah.
How about we do the easy configuration for recording role names thing? At least we have you for context.
Yeah. Let me read the PR again. Give
This
me a
is probably
second.
a year ago or something. But finally, we can clean this up.
Wait, what's happening? Oh. I see. Okay. So basically today, if they so in recording rules, the metric name is kind of fixed and it's not dependent on any of the labels that are exposed in the query or exposed by the output of the query. Maybe the use case here is to say, you know what, I don't want to statically name the metric that the recording rule produces, but I want to kind of set the name based on one of the labels. Does that make sense?
And this is something you couldn't do with relabeling because the recording rule mechanism always sets the name.
Yes. So essentially, yeah, what they want to do is kind of say, use a different label, something like custom name, and then basically that becomes the name of the output metric. You could do that today by, wait, there was a solution here. Yeah, you could do that by doing a label replace on the name. However, it's like, yeah, it's more work. Does that make sense?
So it's possible. Sorry.
What is the use case? Like, why do we need that?
Why would you need that? Give me a second. They basically want to dynamically generate new metrics. Yeah, honestly, I forgot after doing this, what, I don't know, 6 months ago, or 4 months ago, what the use case was back then. But it seems niche enough that we should just say, we've discussed this and we can close it.
This sounds like a very good way to shoot yourself in the foot with.
A user ID as the name of the metric.
Yeah, or just create something circular and get, I don't know. Sounds fishy.
Julius' feedback on the PI was also about like very niche. Not sure if it's worth having.
I see. Give me a second. Let me think. Okay, the concrete use case is, let's say you want to produce, let's say you have you have a bunch of metrics being exposed as HTTP request total sum, CPU time total sum, XYZ total sum, and stuff like this. And then you want to have a single recording rule that sums all of this and then outputs a single metric. But like now to achieve this, you need to write a recording rule per metric type. But if you use this model, you can just say, you know what, I'm going to write one recording rule that says sum everything. Sum everything with the name colon sum at the end. Yeah, so there is the use case, but I would say, yeah, I think this is too niche.
I mean, you can always just create, like you can name the recording rule, please look at label XYZ for the real name, and then you put the real name into XYZ. Right? I mean, if we are just trying to solve a niche use case here.
You could also use a label replace, I guess. And I don't know if the label replace would work. Actually, yeah, you can't use a label replace because the recording rule name will always replace the metric name.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, but I mean, you could still, like, if it's just a niche use case, you could, as a workaround, put your intended label into put your intended name into a label, which is true name equals blah, and then later, if you really need this as an output of query, then you can use a label replace in the query to, if like in your dashboard you want to see the right name, you could still do this, right? It's not like it's not unsolvable in general, right? It's just, it might just look weird if the name you want to see is actually a label. I mean, isn't that also something what people did with when they were sad that the metric name doesn't have special characters, so they just put the actual name they would like to see in, like, real name equals quotes real metric name with special characters. Like if you want to have Chinese metric names, right? You could always put this in. I mean, it behaves a bit differently in PromQL, but I think you can always jump through a few hoops to make it work, which is kind of well, I think if this is, I mean, the general rule we had concluded on a few months ago, that if something is essentially more or less syntactic sugar, you could have a workaround. Then the bar you have to pass is that it's very useful and very often used. And if it's not very often used, then it's mostly it's overhead for the 99% of the people who are not using it, who are then thinking about, why does this rule config has this field? What is this for, right? And if like 10% of the users would use it, then maybe it's a break-even point where you say, and it's worth it. But if very few users are using it, it's probably more damaging. I don't know. Ben, welcome. You might have an opinion about this.
I just got here because I had overlapping meetings. What are we talking about?
So we had Gautam half a year ago during the bug scrub found the pull request 12776. It's in the meeting notes, right? About naming, having a more sophisticated way of creating the names of recording rules, like a more dynamic thing. And we were discussing if this is too niche to make it a fully fledged feature, or if it's maybe useful enough, so we should accept it.
And
this
is weird.
Yeah, so that's Carl. You just said that this might be a foot gun, although we also said foot guns are not necessarily a bad thing.
I would have to review this to decide if this is too weird to include, or yeah, I have no idea. This is, wait, what? What are they? This seems like XY problem at first glance.
Yeah, I agree.
Dependency is the wrong word.
Yeah, and also federating. I have no love for federating anymore.
um,
But I guess this would also possibly be a case with data coming in from remote write. But yeah, no, I'd have to go and actually review this functionality to see if it's worth doing. I can't do that right now.
but I mean, it feels to me like even if this is implementable in a non-foot gun style, it would probably still be not very useful for 99+%.
From a Dev Summit perspective, this is not a consensus item.
It's not a consensus item.
Or not. We have no current consensus, so skip to the next item.
We are very close to the consensus of not accepting it.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
No, I mean, essentially, during the box scrub, I think I was even in that box scrub. We didn't just want to close it in the box scrub because we thought this needs more than 2 people. Now, this Dev Summit doesn't have like loads of people, but it's more than 2. So I would be happy to close it. Plus, if we close a pull request, it's never forever, right? When people all like scream out in pain and say, yes, I totally wanted this feature, and there are suddenly millions of people who want this, then we can still reconsider. I mean, the other argument we just had when you came in, that you don't even need to change the metric name to make things work, right? You can always put that thing into a label and tell people who look at it the real name is in the label called real name, right? So should we close it for now? And let people know that they should object if they feel strongly. I'm not doing a green consensus thing because I think with like 8 people in the room, of which like 1, 2, 3, now we have at least been there. Okay. I'll just update it right now.
Live PR rejection.
Okay. Close with comment. I hope it's nice enough, the comment. Okay. Ben, do you know about the rank function that somebody asked for on Slack? No, okay. Without Brian, it probably doesn't make sense to discuss it here.
Somebody asked about bitwise operations today.
Sorry, what was that?
Somebody asked about this other thing that does a similar PromQL language, supports bitwise operations. Ken has. I will not say aloud the other monitoring system that supports a similar to PromQL language,
which has 500 functions. Ah, Brian, perfect timing. We were just wondering what the rank function is supposed to be. Maybe you can enlighten us, and then we can discuss that topic.
So if you had the numbers 10, 20, 30, the ranks would be 3, 2, 1.
So we do a sort and then we just name it 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Sort and then read off the index.
And there was the comment here is to construct a bump map visualization. What is that?
Oh, I think Wikipedia is your friend. Let me Google that for you.
Okay, so it's a real technical term.
Not a bump mapping. Okay, this is not going very well. So it's you know how there's that thing about what's the most popular programming language, and it sort of shows like Rust rising over time.
But can't we do? It sounds like there should be the count values. Isn't that constructible?
Found a few references. Let me put them in the chat.
Okay, so you can, yeah. Bump chart. Okay, I see. So this is when you really want to kind of reduce the absolute count to just a rank. Olympic Winter Games, can't remember after each competition name. Why was Germany first and then second in Olympic Winter? Okay. Yeah, I see. I mean, sounds interesting. Given that we wanted to be liberal about all the functions as long as they are behind the experimental function feature flag. Would somebody be opposed if there were a pull request introducing this feature behind that feature flag? Would anyone be opposed? Is this a function on aggregator then?
Yeah, I think it's an aggregation.
It's an aggregation because count is an aggregation.
I'm not totally sure, but
isn't it just a function?
yeah, it could be like sort.
I guess it's a function, right? I mean, you could include aggregation, but like together with count, but then you already have count.
I can actually find the issue. Okay, I should go back to the where's the
So when you use this function, the output is the series name and then one number, the rank number, right? How is that helpful if you cannot hover over it and see the actual value? I guess you would combine it with something else.
I mean, if you want to draw the bump chart in Grafana, then you just need the rank, right?
But if it's the number of, well, I think the medals is a good example because the actual ranking is some function of the number of gold, silvers, and bronze. So when you hover over it, you would need that detail. And then in the case of how popular the programming languages are, the detail, I don't know if they even publish the detail of some of these surveys. It's like, oh yeah, we counted the number of job adverts and we mixed it in with some magic.
I mean, one could always say bump chart should be just a panel type in Grafana and Prometheus shouldn't be concerned with it. And then it could, what Kayo said, right? It could display.
Yeah,
how
the
it calculates the
guy
data.
like bit my head off when I said it was a visualization question.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't put the link in.
Our standard excuse.
I couldn't find an issue either. Okay, bump. Okay, so if you search for bump, you get a lot of people saying bump my issue. Okay, so I can't find bump map. Okay, I found the link. So I should put that in here.
Okay, but yeah, in low-end graph backends where you just want to display the rank, it might even make sense. Like even if you just do exploration in the Prometheus UI and you have a vector with 1,000 elements, and you want to see what is the 100th rank thing, right? I don't know.
Well, he also helpfully pointed out that you can do it by calling bottom K1 of top Kn multiple times.
Multiple times, like
It's in the. I put the Slack link in the.
Yeah, I'm loading it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I mean, I guess we've probably gone above and beyond. Given that he didn't actually file an issue, I think we've already gone above and beyond. Like, I guess technically the rank function is missing.
I agree that this is visualization question.
Also, more subtly, if he wants it over time, I mean, all the examples show it over time, and we, well, maybe that is the point. If you call sort, we'll do it, but then we'll throw away that ordering and reorder in a range query. We'll reorder everything by the labels. Whereas if you gave the rank, then we wouldn't throw it away. But then, as you're saying, you can do it on the visualization side.
I mean, if somebody wrote a PR and implemented it, like, who cares? But
yeah, the question is if we should encourage people to do this. I mean, if we already know we would reject it, then we shouldn't encourage people. If we don't think this is super urgent, but we wouldn't reject it, then we can now write down if somebody wants to implement this behind the known feature flag. Go for it, right? We'll merge it and then we'll see how useful it is. I mean, that's also the reason why we have the feature flag. We can see how useful it is, and useful doesn't necessarily mean popular. That's a different thing, but at least we can study it in the wild, right? Okay, I don't write a, where's my cursor? Is this?
So you plan to open an issue about the rank because there's not even an issue yet?
I'm not going to, no.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think it sounds more like we wouldn't file an issue now to make somebody do it, but if somebody comes along and wants to implement it, we wouldn't stop them, right? Maybe that's the lukewarm response here. I'll write something like,
I guess my motivation for bringing it up here is I might have missed something. It might be easy to do already.
yeah, but I think, yeah, nobody in the room has come up with an idea, right?
Correct. Yes. Thank you. My job is done.
Yeah, I mean, let's think just one more minute, but get to the rank. I mean, we have this weird count values, right? But that's a different thing. It's still not. Okay, so this is probably a more visualization issue, but we would accept such a feature behind the usual experimental function feature flag. Again, I'm not doing the Ritchie style green consensus because we are not enough, but just that we have some statement here. Is that what everyone would agree with? Yeah, okay. Great. Let me maybe put this at the top here. I mean, we are more than people in the list, right? Like Brian and Ben, you could still put yourself into the attendant list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Darshan, you're also not in the list. I mean, nobody has to put themselves into the list, but you can.
I guess it might be a slightly nicer world if I opened it with my account that has write access.
What's the plural of consensus? It's probably you declension as consensus, right? It's not consensi, I'm pretty sure.
Consensuses?
Okay. Let's check what else we can do. Maybe it's the Azure SD thing. This was also during bug scrub. So we had multiple issues or even pull requests with regard to Azure SD, and nobody in the room had any clue because nobody knew a lot about Azure SD. And nobody knew who even is the maintainer. My suspicion is that's mostly done or was done by Julian, who is not here today. But it feels like Azure SD would really not be good if that didn't work, right? So we need somebody who can review those pull requests. And I don't know if somebody's in the room who knows enough about it, or another way would be we could call Microsoft for help, right? I mean, they have a few software engineers employed, and maybe one could do an hour or so every other week to review pull requests.
I wonder if CNCF can help with that. Like if they have contacts in Microsoft
related to Azure.
Yeah, that was a conversation on Slack where somebody was asking for a fix, and I sort of said we need someone who knows Azure, and this person said I will forward this to software engineer at Microsoft.
Right, I remember. Yeah.
And I think he said I'm able to. I think he means I'm not able to take a maintainer position in Prometheus. But he's at least offered that we could ping him with questions.
The Microsoft person said that?
I know. This Jan Otto Kropke. Let us go stalk him.
I think he's maintainer of several Prometheus community repositories.
So I'm in terms of Go Azure, but I'm able to take him to a position.
Yeah, I think he missed a not from that.
Yeah,
It doesn't really make sense to.
Okay, and he said I will forward this to software engineer at Microsoft. Recently contacted me around the PR. Yeah.
So he is a SRE in Nuremberg, not at Microsoft.
I mean, let's at least we have discussed this topic enough to put it down here.
But I mean, I also agree. Channel, reach out through whatever channels we've got, whether it's CNCF or friends or.
Okay, I mean, the only thing, this is why I put it here, I was hoping that we would have somebody in the room who has more context on the history of Azure SD and Prometheus, and probably Julian is that person, but he isn't here. So, so maybe let's. But like we could ask in the dev channel if somebody has any contact and ping Julian so he could intervene if he says like I'm already on top of things or something, right?
Well, that thread I just linked, that is me asking that question. I mean, by all means, ask it again.
Yeah. I mean, also, we are not that many in the room. I said this a lot today, but we could all just keep an eye open if you run into a Prometheus friendly Microsoft person at the next conference. Or, I mean, I recently ran into Microsoft people in the gym, right? So whatever, wherever you meet them, you can just ask them. We'll definitely ask on F again and ping Julian. Yeah, I mean, that's anyway good because maybe Julian can tell us something about it. I mean, the idea was back then when we lifted the moratorium that we accept SEs when we have a person in charge, right? And if Julian is that person, then too bad if he isn't overly active, but maybe he plans to be more active, or he knows somebody who we could put in charge or something.
By the way, in the box crowds, we did see a lot of issues related to service discovery, and I had the feeling over time, but maybe this is because I'm new, that it would be better if Prometheus just made one way of doing service discovery the main thing, which would be an external way of doing things, and then you would let like Microsoft do their own, even maybe closed source service discovery and just integrate. Because clearly, it's hard to put in code so tightly coupled with Prometheus to find the maintainer and stuff, and also bloat the code. And I feel like it feels to me a better strategy is to just make the external service discovery the main thing and let people adopt that.
Yeah,
I mean,
think the genie is out of the bottle on at least the big clouds and probably a couple more, DigitalOcean and so on. I think there would be a lot of whining if we removed Azure Discovery and said go do a web service.
I mean, we had the moratorium, and during the moratorium, we first had the text file interface, right? And then we had also, I don't know when exactly was introduced, this HTTP interface where you run an HTTP API call, and people still wanted tightly integrated service discovery, right? And I think it makes sense for like, I mean, that probably I mean, for sure happens in Kubernetes, but probably in the others as well, where you have this subscription thing, right? Where you don't pull an API endpoint or look into a file every second or with iNotify or whatever it is, but you are called back, like Kubernetes kind of calls Prometheus when there's a change. And that's hard to do wires. Like it would be a way more sophisticated API to do something like that. I mean, it could be like a code level thing that they provide a library we import and then they are in charge, but that needs even more commitment, right, than just a single person who will review pull requests.
We could reach out to Microsoft community relations and see if they developer community and see if they can get somebody to take a look at it.
Yeah, that was the idea. Do you know?
They are the second biggest public cloud provider. So if GCP can provide some help supporting their stuff, I think Azure can afford it too.
Yeah. Do you know where or whom to ask there?
I have a contact I can ping.
Okay. Then we'll also ping a contact.
I feel like just saying, "Hey, Microsoft, you have money, you should help." Like, doesn't really work.
No, it's more like Microsoft. You are the second most important cloud provider, and Prometheus is the most important monitoring system, and we have a problem here maintaining the SD.
Yeah, like when you message this person saying what are the advantage that Azure has, then maybe that's better approach.
No, I have a specific person I can contact at Microsoft that specifically deals with these kinds of things.
Oh, nice.
That's perfect. Ben, you are our man in what's the word? In Redmond.
Also, Microsoft sells Prometheus or a Prometheus, a service with the word Prometheus in the name.
Yeah.
Many other words in the name.
Surely they should have a vested interest, but many companies should have a vested interest in supporting Prometheus more. But okay, I mean, I think that's good enough. Ben will ping them. I will send a message to Prometheus Dev again and mention Julian there so he can still intervene in case he has already contacts on that. Okay. Let's check what else we have here. So there's one ancient Julian item, but Julian is not here. Josh. Alert hysteresis. Distinct count metric type, that was submitted by me. Let's discuss this because it has been here forever. And I think then we can even conclude the meeting. So there's an ancient issue. It's probably also from bug scrub. Like this, what we do sometimes. Distinct count metric type issue 12233. This sounds like the issue number sounds like it has something with count distinct numbers. Anyway, so issue 12233 is a elaborate proposal and some discussion. Yeah. And I say, without having looked into this in detail, this is definitely one of those touch everything throughout the stack changes. I think it deserves a discussion during the Dev Summit. And I said this in July 23, which is less than a year ago, so it's not too bad. I've added an item to the agenda. This should not keep anyone from discussing the proposal here. So Julius had said a few things, and then since August, there was no further discussion. I don't know. I think this is quite a big thing to just read through and understand.
When you said it impacts a lot of things, isn't it just client Golang basically having the client instrumentation? Like, why? It's just a counter at the end of the day, right?
I understood it's more like a native histogram. I mean, not directly, but in that it is a completely new data structure that you would also keep in the TSDB.
Okay, then I don't understand the feature. Okay.
Maybe I don't understand it.
Yeah, coincidentally, I watched a video including a nice description of hyperloglog. So I put a link that in the doc. My initial thought is that it would go into the client library. Why is he putting it in the server?
It's also like in the exposition format and proposed PromQL changes, right?
Oh, I see. Because you're gonna union the. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
It's definitely interesting. Yeah, that was kind of.
Or you want to keep the uniqueness over targets. That's what you're.
So the motivation that Armand Dadgar is the founder of HashiCorp, right? Apart from Hashimoto. Anyway, so he gave a talk and he motivated this thing in the context of selling adverts, that you have all kinds of different things you're trying to track. You're trying to, like, how many people in America and how many people who watch football and how many people who eat donuts, and you in some sense want to count all of these categories, and in some sense you want to be able to union them and intersect them and so on. And it's way too much data to actually count everything by every dimension. And the hyperloglog is a cool trick where it's a little bit like Bloom filters. He does them both in the same talk, where you compute a hash and you probabilistically, well, the maths says that probabilistically the chance that you're hashing and hashing and hashing and you came up with a number that's all zeros is a certain error estimate for the true count. So yeah, so you maintain this hash, but you maintain it by all the dimensions, and then you can intersect them, and you can ask these questions. So I think it is very like a native histogram. It's a new data structure which would need to go all the way through. Feels like a 2026 project.
A what project? Sorry.
Well, like I said, 2026. Like after we finished native histograms and Prometheus 3, and we kind of build up some energy again, and we can put hyperloglog in.
Maybe it was a mistake to actually do the code path in native histograms for the float samples, integer histograms, and float histograms separately. Maybe you should have just got the floats for backward compatibility performance and then combine the other two into something generic, because then we could add this kind of thing more easily.
I mean, this could be part of the big change, right? To turn Prometheus into something that can store structured data structures of some kind in a more generic fashion, right?
Yeah.
That could be part of this. But again, yeah, what Brian said, that's like a 2026 project. But like, it sounds like we shouldn't just close the issue and saying this is not going to happen, but we should say something like, this is definitely not happening easily this year or next year. But if somebody is determined to take it on, we wouldn't stop them. That's more like what I read it.
Well, we might want to go a little bit further, like along the lines of what Cryo was saying, that I mean, simplifying perhaps too much. The code currently has a switch statement in every single place that a value is used, and it's switching over 4 cases. And I don't think we just want to switch 5 cases, 6 cases, 7 cases as we go forward. We would be looking for some kind of re-architecture that allows new data types to be added a bit more cleanly.
Yeah, at least now we know where we need to put those code in. So, I mean, that's worth something. I mean, it's information. I mean, last week we had a bug where we missed a place. Like Arve fixed something last week for the write log.
Also, I think it's worth saying that if somebody is willing to implement this, this person probably needs a sponsor or a champion inside a team. Like, if a huge PR just appears out of nowhere, I think it will take forever to review.
Yeah, it wouldn't be one huge PR because you have to change 20 different repositories for that, right?
20 huge PR.
But I mean, you could start with the design doc. I mean, so the thing that we should not do is to make people write a design doc for something where we know it will never happen. But it's fine to make somebody write a design doc, even if it takes like 3 or 4 years, because I did that, and now we have native histograms, right? So it's that's okay, right? It's not okay to say this if we already know this is so against what Prometheus wants to accomplish. But it sounds more like it would be lovely if somebody redesigned the TSV code to not have a million switch statements, but have some better way of handling different sample types, right? Okay, let me type this down here.
I'm slightly missing something from my memory of why exactly you want this, because if you just counted them, it's 64 bits each. So maybe the advantage of hyperloglog is that it's smaller than 64 bits, but it's quite hard to store something smaller than 64 bits in TSDB. And also we have like 3 kilobytes of metadata for every 64 bits that we store. Well, maybe when over time. Well, no, because we're only storing like 1.6 bytes famously over time. So I think I would also need to understand why it's a good thing.
Yeah,
Or-
Adzyme will probably explain that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, isn't the point to reduce the number of series? Because the series have an overhead. Like that was the point for native histograms as well. So if you
Oh,
can,
right. Okay. So some of the dimensions disappear inside the hyperlog structure.
I guess, like I still don't understand it, but yeah, probably.
So that might be interesting as a generic high cardinality thing. You know, if somebody wants to have client IP as a label or something like that, and we have some mechanism for dealing with that doesn't involve creating new series.
Looks like one use case exactly buried in the issue is if I wanted to know the number of distinct IP addresses that accessed one domain, then you could do it.
I mean, yeah, but like I think Arthur said this, right? That design doc also needed to make a point why this is useful. But that's still different from I mean, if we consider this being outside of the scope that Prometheus can serve, then it would be a different type of rejection, right? If we just say this is a lot of effort and the usefulness is so limited that nobody wants to invest that effort, that's a different thing. Then I would still not say no, but say, yeah, I mean, we need enough people committed to this, and there must be a kind of return of investment, but it's still a nice idea. Okay, I'll just take all the things that we said here and we'll follow up to the issue. And whoever wants to check if I caught it in the right way, you can just read it and also follow up. But I think, I mean, in general, do you agree that we give this nuanced reply, but we don't close the issue? We leave it open as, in principle, this could be nice, but it's a very big thing to tackle. I see people nodding. I don't see all the people, but okay. Okay, I'll do this. Okay, I think all the remaining backlog we have is something we either need. I mean, there's still the alert hysteresis thing, but I think somebody needs to sit down and prepare a little presentation so we can continue the discussion where we stopped 1.5 years ago or something. I think it was in the Munich Red Hat office. It must be long ago. Wilson. And then hopefully we will have Josh next time and can discuss all the development stuff. But otherwise, I think we have reached the end. If somebody wants to bring something up right now, that would be an opportunity. Otherwise, we can close the meeting half an hour early. Okay. I see slide notes everywhere. Okay. Then let's close it here. Thank you very much for being here, being the one of the few that attended. And yeah, let's see next month who will show up.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Adios.